evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. Bruce Blakeman, the Nassau County executive, has entered the race for governor with the message that he released today saying that he's been a good boss for that populous county and would be an even better boss than Governor Kathy Hochul. The move means that Blakeman, who was a Republican, is now forcing a Republican primary against Representative Elise Stefanik, pitting two allies of President Donald Trump against each other. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins me now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Bern. Good evening, Errol. And now just the way that the electoral calendar is running, Bruce Blakeman actually won't even need to give up his seat as Nassau County executive if he is unsuccessful in this venture. Therefore, this is a free run for him. He's able to build up his name ID and make his case to New Yorkers.
People trust me because I'm not a phony.
Republican Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman is the newest New York gubernatorial candidate.
I have a record of achievement, and if I do the things in New York State and get the opportunity to do the things that I did in Nassau County, we are going to be the most prosperous state in the United States, and we're going to be the safest state in the United States.
Pitching his resume as an executive in an interview with New York One. With a focus on affordability, he's taking on Governor Kathy Hochul's own record.
She's done nothing. What I would do is create economic opportunity, prosperity, job creation. Those are the things that make it more affordable because it puts more money in people's pockets.
The son of a state assemblyman, Blakeman served as a town of Hempstead councilman and commissioner of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Also running unsuccessful bids for state comptroller, U.S. Senate, and Congress. But in 2021, he successfully flipped the county from blue to red.
We need a strong executive. Like President Trump, Bruce Blakeman is a leader who can make the tough choices.
Ally to President Donald Trump, who talked about Blakeman and rival candidate Congresswoman Elise Stefanik on Monday in Washington, D.C.
Are you planning on making any endorsements?
Well, I'll think about it, but he's great and she's great. They're both great people. We have a lot of great people at the Republican Party.
Blakeman would not say whether he received the commander-in-chief's blessing. Have you talked to President Trump about your run?
Yes.
What did he say?
I don't disclose any conversations that I have in private with anybody, but especially President Trump. But I think his comments yesterday, he can speak for himself. And I think what he said yesterday is indicative of how he feels.
But Stefanik said Blakeman, quote, has no shot and is putting his raging ego first and New Yorkers last as he blows up the best opportunity in a generation to save New York. The state Republican Party is behind Stefanik, and sources say a primary splits GOP support and finances. When the party's enrollment is already behind compared to Democratic voters, and Trump himself is unpopular. Hochul weighing in.
Let's let them go at it. Let's see how they out-mega each other in a primary. So, no, it doesn't matter which Trump cheerleader decides to run against me. You know, the narrative is the same. You know, it doesn't affect what I do.
I'm not going to let anybody destroy New York.
Promising to be a check on Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, especially on his approach to federal immigration.
If Mamdani changes his policies and his tone and his rhetoric, and he wants to make this a better city, and we can find common ground, then I'll work together with him.
Blakeman has touted local law enforcement's collaboration with ICE, recently announcing a Nassau County border wall protecting residents from a Mamdani administration. But he praised Mamdani's reappointment of NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
Jessica Tisch has been doing a very good job, and I'm actually happy that she's offered to stay on.
And of course, there's so many other topics to bring up. Blakeman is also a pro-choice Republican. He said that's one of his pitches as he goes off across the state where it's majority Democratic enrollment. He'll have to appeal to women. He'll have to appeal to independents. And then a quick note, Errol, on who he already has in his camp. The Nassau County Republican chairman, Joseph Cairo, put out a statement saying Bruce Blakeman is the best shot that New York Republicans have to taking on Hochul, which puts a split in the party already, especially considering Stefanik, as she goes through, will have to get support on Long Island.
Yeah, whoever is going to do it is going to have to put together a lot of different counties, and Nassau, of course, is one of the biggest. We've been talking politics, but Governor Hochul, a key member of her government team, is changing jobs in a way that really makes news today.
Yes, Catherine Garcia, right now, who has been in Hochul's cabinet for I mean, ever since she first came into a full term, she's the head of state operations. She's now going to be the head of Port Authority, replacing Rick Cotton. That appointment was made earlier today. And Jackie Bray, the head of Homeland Security for the state, will be taking over Garcia's role. So we'll see. We'll continue to follow that development. Very good. Thanks very much, Bernadette. Turning now to the City Hall transition, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani kept his focus on the city's housing crisis today, meeting separately with real estate leaders and with homeless advocates to talk about solutions, while continuing to face questions about his plans to end police sweeps of homeless encampments. Our Bobby Kuzin now joins me with the details. Good evening, Bobby.
Good evening, Errol. And I have to say, I was a little surprised that this encampment story turned into a multi-day news story. I mean, I think it would have been bigger news if Mamdani said he was going to continue the sweeps of homeless encampments, but I think it really struck a nerve because there are some people who worry that Mamdani's policies will invite disorder, will invite increased crime, but he has doubled down. He says the solution is not more policing, it's more housing.
Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani has been focused on the issue of housing, and by extension, those without homes.
Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers are just one rent hike, one medical emergency, one layoff from joining the ranks of the homeless in our city, which have swelled to the greatest numbers since the Great Depression.
On Tuesday, Mamdani spoke to reporters after meeting with business and real estate leaders about the housing crisis, another signal that he's willing to work with the so-called establishment. He said he solicited input on the roadblocks faced by developers and on how city government can do better.
I ensured that my door to their feedback, their concerns, and to identifying areas of collaboration will always remain open.
Later, Mamdani met with homeless advocates to talk about those hit hardest by the housing crisis. Mamdani has faced criticism since saying last week that he'd end police sweeps of homeless encampments, a signature policy of Mayor Adams, who says leaving New Yorkers to sleep in the streets is inhumane.
There is no question that these are not conditions that we are standing in right now that any New Yorker should be living in. The question, however, is whether we will be satisfied by just shuttling those New Yorkers to another equally cold place in our city, or whether we want to connect them to housing.
Mamdani's opposition to homeless sweeps has raised quality of life concerns and drew a direct rebuke from Adams, who put out this video on Friday.
It's not just misguided, it's shameful.
But the city's data show that those removed from encampments rarely end up in housing. Mamdani said he hopes
to permanent housing in an entire year. That cannot be a policy we continue. We have to create a policy that actually puts these New Yorkers in a place that is warm, not a place that is just as cold.
And this issue of homeless encampments is certainly not a new one. Going back to the de Blasio administration, we saw encampments. This was a controversy. We saw them in Tompkins Square Park in the East Village. And de Blasio came under some criticism, but he did carry out these sweeps. At one point, he said, we're not going to tolerate disorder. So for Mamdani to say he's going to stop these sweeps, I think is a real departure from the policy that we've seen for the last several years.
Is the current mayor, is Eric Adams, suggesting that we continue to move people around but not find them permanent housing? Not even one?
I don't know, how the Adams administration has addressed this question of where people are going, right? Are they being put in housing? And maybe that some of them are accepting shelter but then not staying in shelter for very long. But yes, there's a difference of opinion here on how effective the Adams policy has been, other than to clear, these areas where homeless people have congregated.
Okay, thanks very much, Bobby. We are going to take a short break now, and when we come back, while City Comptroller Brad Lander has a few weeks left on his current job, he's already planning his next act. We're going to bring you those details next. Then I'll be speaking with Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, who also has his sights set on Washington, D.C. He's the first candidate to enter the race to succeed longtime member of Congress, Nydia Velázquez. And then later, we'll turn to the debate over short-term rentals in our city when I'm joined by a special panel. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on 1. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on 1.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The sources have confirmed to New York One that City Controller Brad Lander is expected to announce a campaign for Congress as early as tomorrow. That move sets the stage for a primary contest against Representative Dan Goldman. Sources say that Lander, a progressive from Brooklyn, is launching his campaign with support from Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and national progressive leaders. Our Dan Rivoli joins us now with a closer look. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. Those national leaders, Liz Warren, Bernie Sanders, sources tell us they'll be among the names listed among the people endorsing Lander. And they are the marquee names in the national progressive movement, along with Mayor-elect Mamdani. Of course, Lander, when he was running for mayor, cross-endorsed Mamdani during the primary and then was his top ally on the campaign trail all through the general election. Now, Brad Lander is launching this campaign with the support of Mamdani against a two-term congressman.
They are illegally obstructing my ability to conduct oversight.
Congressman Dan Goldman and City Comptroller Brad Lander, here together, are regulars at 26 Federal Plaza, standing side by side against ICE detaining migrants for deportation there. They'll soon be adversaries in a Democratic primary. Sources told New York One that Lander is planning to announce his primary against Goldman with the support from national progressive left leaders like Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist. As Lander explained on Inside City Hall in October,
he needs partners in Albany and absolutely in Washington who see the importance of this moment and will roll up their sleeves to work with him.
The district, New York's 10th, covers Lower Manhattan, over the bridges to Brooklyn, down to Park Slope and Sunset Park. A rep for Lander declined to comment. The campaign for Goldman, who was elected in 2022, did respond. Dan is focused on stopping the Trump administration from what they're doing to immigrant families in his district right now. He's proud of his progressive record in Congress and will deal with Brad and other challengers in the new year. Lander's protesting at 26 Federal Plaza led to an arrest that earned him national attention.
By ICE for linking arms.
Democratic primaries in 2026 are going to feature divisions in policy over Israel. New York 10 is likely to be no exception. Lander of Brooklyn and Goldman of Manhattan are Jewish, and both have been critical of Israel's right-wing government. But Goldman has taken votes in support of Israel. What is the main complaint progressives have with Dan Goldman?
It's a good question. Dan's record is very progressive, but on Israel, he's been like pro-Israel. And so there are a lot of folks in the progressive movement that is a signature issue.
Mamdani's support of Lander puts him at odds with his own group, the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. That group formally endorsed Brooklyn City Councilwoman Alexa Aviles, also a Democratic Socialist. She has reportedly been considering a race, but had not yet made a formal entry into that campaign. Errol.
So it's not yet a three-way race, but it easily could be, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, it could be. And Aviles would have the, endorsement, the seal of approval from the DSA. Yet the DSA's biggest star, its biggest political success story in Mamdani is backing Brad Lander. And you can't afford to split the progressive and the socialist vote that you need to unite against Goldman, who is I guess you would call it a normal, typical progressive.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him on a number of occasions, and he's mostly been in on the side of issues that I would consider progressive, but we'll see what the voters have to say about it. Very interesting that outsiders like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders would side against him. I wonder if they've had any clashes in Congress. I mean, in theory, they're all colleagues.
Yes, and you're seeing the dividing line in the Democratic Party where the challengers to these incumbents it's basically a three-legged stool. It's fighting Trump, being against corporate power, and being against Israel and the Israeli government. And if you are deficient in any of those three areas, you may expect a primary challenge. And of course, Liz Warren, Bernie Sanders, more of the economic populist side of the Democratic Party. They think Goldman is a corporate Democrat. Yet, as you said, when it comes to Trump and deportations, he's out there in the federal plaza where ICE is detaining migrants for deportation. He's there. He's on MS. Well, MS Now and he really made his bones. He was the Trump impeachment lawyer before he entered Congress, and he was known because of his television appearances constantly.
Okay, hopefully in all of this, there'll be some talk about federal assistance to the district. We'll continue to cover this. Thank you, Dan. Also tonight, family and community members are demanding the release of a man being held by ICE and married to a U.S. citizen after he was detained at a routine hearing at an immigration court in Lower Manhattan. They took to the streets today to make a public plea and criticize the immigration crackdown in New York. Our Kelly Mena has the details in this report.
It took over a week for him to receive socks and a towel.
It was through tears that Matthew Marrero pleaded for the release of his husband. Alan Dabrio Marrero has spent more than 2 weeks in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody. ICE agents detained Alan when the couple showed up to 26 Federal Plaza for their routine green card interview on November 24th. The interview was a crucial step in Alan's journey towards citizenship after marrying Matthew in 2023 and taking his name.
We were blindsided when the officer announced that my husband had supposedly missed a hearing in December 2022 and that a judge had ordered him removed.
The Marreros had hoped to spend Thanksgiving as a family celebrating Alan's residency status, but now they've been plunged into a nightmare. As of this week, Alan is being held at Delaney Hall ICE Detention Center in Newark. New York One has reached out to ICE and has not heard back.
I mean, last night he told me the food had mold on it, and then his medication is being mishandled.
We're asking an immigration judge to rescind his removal order because he simply didn't know that he had a hearing.
Alexandra Rizzio, who is representing Alan and is a lawyer with Make the Road New York, has made a motion to reopen the case, triggering a stay on the removal order. Rizzio said the case is still pending.
An immigration judge will quickly rule on the motion so that he can get released, get his green card, and come home to his husband.
Others rallying for Alan's release included City Councilman Harvey Epstein, Congressman Dan Goldman, and Public Advocate Jumaane Williams.
None of this is about violent crime or about safety. No. I need you to understand the Fourth Reich when you see it. Yeah. I need you to understand authoritarianism when you see it.
As Matthew fights for his husband's release, he had this message for President Trump and ICE.
Stop. We are all human, and this country was built on the backs of immigrants. So everybody's coming here with a dream, and some people are coming from terrible situations. Give them the chance to do the right thing.
Kelly Mena, New York One.
It is time for a break. Coming up, it has been 1 year since Robert Brooks died in state custody after being beaten by correction officers. New York One spoke with Brooks' son, who is calling on Governor Hochul to sign a package of bills aimed at preventing similar violence against inmates. We'll bring you that report in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. 1 year ago today, Robert Brooks was fatally beaten at a central New York prison. While his death prompted some safety changes in state prisons, there's a call for further reform. It's spearheaded by the son of Robert Brooks. Our Ayanna Harry spoke with him exclusively today and joins us now with more. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. For so many New Yorkers, it was difficult to watch that video showing the final moments of the life of Robert Brooks. But his son felt it was so important for the public to see that footage. And while Robert Brooks Jr. says he's seen some accountability, he's now calling on the governor to take action.
Me and my dad, we had a best friend relationship.
It's now been a year since that father-son bond was shattered. Robert Brooks Jr. still vividly remembers learning his father would never come home from prison.
My grandmother called me and told me to get to her house as soon as I can. And she had this type of voice where I knew something terrible had happened.
December 9th, 2024, Robert Brooks Sr., a man incarcerated inside the Marcy Correctional Facility in central New York, was dead. In the first few days, his son and namesake was left with so many unanswered questions. Then he learned there was video.
I was the first person to watch it.
Body cameras worn by prison guards recorded the brutal abuse. Officers dragging, stomping, punching, even using a boot to beat Brooks as he laid bloody and restrained.
I wanted to hide it. Spoke to God about it. I spoke to my family members about it. And we felt that was the best thing, was to let the world see it.
In his father's death, the son found a new mission as statewide protests unfolded. Brooks Jr. began publicly calling for the guards involved in his father's fatal beating to be prosecuted. 10 guards were indicted. 6 pleaded guilty to charges ranging from tampering with evidence to first-degree manslaughter. And earlier this year, 3 prison officers went to trial. In October, 2 were acquitted. 1 was found guilty of murder.
During the court process, during the whole process, I felt like I was being strong for everyone else.
And 1 year later, Brooks Jr. is also fighting for change across New York State. After the prison deaths of Robert Brooks and Messiah Nantui, the state legislature passed a prison omnibus package aimed at making prisons safer, from expanded surveillance camera systems to requiring the timely disclosure of video footage after a death in custody. Governor Kathy Hochul has not signed the measures into law.
We want the governor to sign the bill.
While the governor said in a statement Tuesday Robert Brooks should still be alive today, Hochul also made clear she believes common sense changes need to be made to the current legislation currently sitting on her desk.
This is a compromise. These are not even the full route of the problems, but just a little bit.
For Robert Brooks Jr., this isn't the end of his advocacy. It's the beginning. He is motivated to keep working.
It's my son. It's my grandmother. It's everything that my father was supposed to come home and handle. I'm living for that now.
And Governor Kathy Hochul did note her administration expedited funding to fix broken surveillance cameras in state prisons. And she's also invested more money in the Office of Special Investigations, Errol.
Yeah, these things are key. As I recall, a lot of the footage that we eventually did see was despite the efforts of the offending officers to turn off their body-worn cameras.
That's correct. And what we saw also, not just in the case of Robert Brooks, but also in Messiah Nantui, is real concern about there being known dead spots in some state prisons where officers may know that either there are no cameras or cameras aren't working. And so part of what's in this prison omnibus bill that the governor has not signed would be expanding this prison system, camera system. So not just fixing broken cameras, but adding more cameras to some of those dead spots.
And we know that there's a shortage, actually. I mean, you know, clearly better personnel are needed, but, you know, more personnel in general are needed, right?
Right. And we did see that strike in the state's prisons earlier this year. So that also led to the shortage in staffing, Errol.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ayanna. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined in studio by Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. We'll talk about his campaign to succeed longtime member of Congress, Nydia Velázquez. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Bergman.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
So many young people are hungry for change and have a clear-eye view of the problems and how to fix them. So that helped convince me that this was the right time to pass the torch.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was longtime Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez on this program last month, talking about her decision to retire ahead of next year's midterm elections. But the race to succeed Velázquez is quickly taking shape. And my next guest, Antonio Reynoso, was the first candidate to jump into the contest just last week. He is seeking to represent New York's 7th Congressional District. There's a map of it there. It includes neighborhoods like Long Island City and Queens and stretches all the way out to Bushwick in Brooklyn. But the Brooklyn Borough president could potentially face an opponent backed by the growing Democratic Socialist movement. Antonio Reynoso joins us now to talk more about his campaign for Congress. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Happy to be here, Harold.
We were just talking a few weeks ago, just barely a month ago, you got reelected to your second term. Why now run for the House of Representatives?
First, Nydia, Congresswoman Velázquez has been a mentor to a ton of young elected progressives in the district and has really shaped her legacy in a meaningful way. And I consider myself a part of that legacy. And I want to be able to step up and continue the work that she's done in the community for Puerto Rico. And I think I can step up and do that. But also just, you know, the city of New York is in the right hands and it's going in the right direction. We're fighting to ensure that affordability is like at the top of the line. All the headaches that we're getting as a city come exclusively from the federal government. And I think I want to be there. I want to fight. I want to make sure that we can address the issues that are impacting us, like abolishing ICE, taxing the rich, ensuring that we're funding safety nets and not genocide. And we're going to do that with health care for all and housing for all. And those are the things that I want to be able to tackle and continue to fight, not only on behalf of Nydia, but for the district.
What do you take away from her? You say she was a mentor to you and to others. What are some of the lessons you learned from her?
Learning how to fight. I was born into politics, fighting against the Democratic Party in Brooklyn. That was a very strong party that no one ever thought could be defeated. And we learned how to organize, and we were on the ground making sure that the moms and pops and the grandmas, the tenant associations, the school leadership, and we were all together fighting systems of oppression within the Democratic Party. And the first person that was with us was Nydia Velázquez, and she was alone. And Nydia never worried about being alone. She always thought that choosing the right fights were where we should always be, regardless of whether or not it's a lonely place. Thankfully, through her years and her guidance, many of us came up and now became elected officials. And Nydia is leaving a legacy with, 13, 14 elected officials that she supported in one way or the other. So what I take from her is just like choosing the right fights, always leading with your heart and your conscience. And I think she did a really good job. You look at these elected officials on the ground, and their integrity and their strength and their talent is amazing.
The district was specifically created as a Latino district, and I do remember when she won, it was extraordinary. And it used to be a little bit broader. It used to jump over into Manhattan and so forth and so on. But that's in part the reason that she became the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected to Congress. I looked at the numbers again. It's still about 37% Latino, 37% white. Is it important that it remain a Latino district?
I think it is. I think the history of this district is deeply important. But I want to talk about Nydia Velázquez being the first Puerto Rican woman to get elected to that seat. And Puerto Rico doesn't have federal representation, but it has Nydia Velázquez. And I think that having someone that has gone through the experiences or understands how the diaspora and like how the island is affected in a deep way is important. And we need a representative that can speak to Puerto Rico on those issues. But also born and raised in that district. I was on welfare, food stamps, Section 8. There wasn't a government subsidy that existed that I didn't have to take advantage of so that I could be successful. Government worked for people. And it worked for me, it worked for my family, and now I'm running for Congress because of that type of support. So I want to push back against Trump, and I want to make sure that future families that come into this country, immigrants that come into this country, have a path to success that we were awarded and that I can pay that forward.
You told my colleague, Ayanna Harry, that you've had your meeting with the Democratic Socialists of America. How did that go?
It went well. Look, I've worked with the Democratic Socialists in the past, and we're going to be working with the Democratic Socialists in the future. I think Zoran Mamdani's win is a reflection, especially in our district, where he won by 52 points, I believe, or by a huge margin, is a reflection of the organizing we've been doing for a long time. The NKD and New Kings Democrats fighting the Democratic machine, we were fighting then. We have organizations and systems by which Nydia helped come up and build like these not-for-profit organizations that are deeply important. We've been doing a ton of organizing that made this area ripe for progressive politics to thrive, like Zohran Mamdani. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the DSA. And I just want to be clear, I supported Zohran Mamdani. I supported Julia Salazar, who is an amazing DSA rep, or rep for our community that is meaningful. We were there with them, with Debbie Medina, when she first ran, long before people even knew what the DSA was doing. And we were there supporting all the way through. So I see it more as a partnership. But to be clear, this district is represented by the Doñas and the Dongs, represented by the tenant associations and the NYCHA development and the Lindsay Park development and so forth. Like, there's so many aspects of what this community is about, and I'm looking to build a coalition that is reflective of that community and represent it when I become a congressman.
Have you spoken with Mayor-elect Mamdani about your campaign?
I have spoken to Mayor-elect Mamdani. It was a good conversation. Like, obviously, he understands who I am and where I come from. Obviously, I was a huge ally of his. I was the first non-DSA elected to do a commercial for him for Brooklyn and really show up for him. And like I said, what I'm doing here is building a coalition that is respective of the entire district, respective of the long-term and new residents of the district, and I'm looking forward to being its congressman.
Ultimately, have you talked to either Congresswoman Velasquez or anybody else about what it's like to split your time between Brooklyn and Washington, D.C.? Yeah, it's universally not fun. And, you know, I have a young family, but I talk about times when I was very young and thinking about my future and Congress and the representation as a Dominican American and what it would mean for the work that I can do for the folks on the ground, and it's deeply meaningful. So my family's all in, but I hear it's going to be quite the drag. Yeah, well, it's a serious commute. Yeah. What committee would you want to serve on and why? Look, that's very interesting as a coming in. I think that the most pressing matter of New York City and our district is housing. And I would love to figure out a way to have some say in what we can be doing to make homes more affordable for all Americans, but specifically for this district. Section 8, like I said, is a federal government program that helped me achieve amazing things. And I want to make sure that I can focus on the housing front, not only as I did as a borough president, but eventually as a congressperson. Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. Best of luck on the campaign trail. We'll talk another time. Thank you so much, Aaron. Okay, let's take a short break now. When we come back, we'll tell you about bipartisan efforts in Congress to extend health care subsidies tied to the Affordable Care Act. Stay with us.
In Focus with Cheryl Wills, a weekly show discussing decisions and potential solutions for issues making an impact in your community and your city. If it's important to New Yorkers, then it's being talked about here. In Focus with Cheryl Wills, Sunday mornings at 10:30 on New York One.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. If lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are unable to reach a decision on health care before heading home for the holidays next week, millions of Americans could be subjected to skyrocketing premiums in the new year. Today, House lawmakers from both sides of the aisle introduced an attempt at a compromise. It's called the Bipartisan Health Insurance Affordability Act. And joining me now to break it all down for us is Shannon Ryan. She is the newest member of the Spectrum News political team based out of Washington, D.C. Good evening, Shannon, and welcome to New York One. Tell us about this new legislation.
Thank you, Errol. I am so excited to be here. Well, as the name implies, it is a bipartisan proposal put forth by the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus. It was introduced earlier today by Republican Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, along with the support of two New Yorkers, Tom Suozzi and Republican Nicole Malliotakis. If passed, it would extend the Affordable Care Act's enhanced premium tax credits for another 2 years, thus preventing that dramatic premium hike for millions of Americans come 2026. Now, this also does work to hash out some of the sticking points that we've seen, things like income limits as well as fraud protections, Errol.
Now, this is not the first bipartisan health care proposal that we've seen come out of the House in recent weeks. Why is that, and how is this one different from some of these other proposals?
Errol, well, there are some differences. I spoke with both lawmakers and staffers today who told me they feel like most of the moderates who are signing on to these sorts of proposals would be okay with any of them. To quote one staffer, the stakes are just too high at this point to get hung up on what they're calling minor details. Now, this is being touted as a sort of attempt from the rank and file to pressure House leadership to call a vote on one of these compromises. For context, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has previously stated he does not believe that there is a GOP appetite to extend those subsidies. I asked Malliotakis about that earlier today as her actions clearly undercut Johnson's statement. This is what she had to say.
I think that you're hearing a lot of good ideas coming forward. What we know for sure is that doing nothing is simply not an option. I think that what we need to do is see if we do have 218 members that are be willing to vote for this bill, and then pressure leadership to bring it to the floor for a vote.
Now, if House leadership doesn't come around to a vote, I'm told that this bipartisan coalition is looking at potentially using a discharge petition to force one. However, Malliotakis tells me that that is unlikely, calling it the, quote, nuclear option. Now, as for House Democrats, they've also got their own discharge petition. It would force a vote to extend the ACA enhanced subsidies for 3 years. But that is a clean extension, meaning there wouldn't be any changes, no compromises. At this time, every House Democrat, but not a single Republican has signed on. And keep in mind, 4 GOP signatures are required for this to work. Now, despite that, today House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said that he is sticking with that plan for a 3-year extension.
There's one discharge petition that I'm committed to at the moment, and that's the 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. I haven't had an opportunity to review the legislation being put forth by Representative Fitzpatrick and Representative Golden. Of course, I'll take a look at it to see if there's anything meaningful there as it relates to a path to getting something done.
Now, Malliotakis tells me that that bipartisan coalition is also seeking the White House's support for that legislation they unveiled earlier today, Errol.
Yeah, Jen, and that was going to be my next question, is the White House is really calling a lot of the shots for the Republican conference. Do we know whether or not any of this is of interest to them?
So Maliatak has said that there have been discussions. When I pressed her on that, she said, she sort of laughed actually, and she said, look, it's a bit too early. We just rolled this out today, but we have had discussions regarding other bipartisan proposals. We know that the White House also stepped up with their own. So she said she knows that they are invested in a solution. And for that reason, right now, she feels confident that they may get on board. But again, too early to say for certain, Errol.
All right. Thank you very much, Shannon Ryan. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll talk to two opponents of a pair of bills making their way through the City Council that would roll back regulations on short-term rentals like Airbnb. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day, with in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Last month, the City Council held a hearing on two bills that would roll back some of the regulations currently in place that limit short-term rentals in New York City. The proposed bills that are backed by the rental platform Airbnb would increase the number of guests that are allowed and no longer require the rental host to be present during the guest's stay. But hotel unions have come out against the bills, and they released this ad.
I'm only one of 40,000 hotel workers that will be hurt.
Let's be honest about who wins with Intro 948. Airbnb makes billions.
Hosts get scraps.
Union hotel workers lose their livelihoods.
And working families pay the price.
Mayor-elect Mamdani weighed in on the ad, saying that New York housing laws are not for sale. I'm joined now by a special panel to break down the opposition to this legislation. The Reverend Kirsten John Foy is president and CEO of the Arc of Justice. Robert Desir is a staff attorney at the Legal Aid Society. Welcome to the program. Good to see both of you. Now, last time you and I talked about this, right here in this studio, you were in favor of supporting Airbnb hosts because many families need it as a way to supplement their income. What has changed about that?
So when we first started this debate, it was the wild, wild west. There was no regulatory regime. There were no structures. There were no rules to protect homeowners, to protect renters, to protect tourists who were coming in. We were successful in establishing a regime that created a balance, that balanced the needs of homeowners who needed supplemental income, balance the needs of renters by putting in protections. You had to be in the home. You couldn't use a second unit, take it off the market. And so we created a balance that we think helped for a burgeoning home sharing industry to thrive in New York. And what Airbnb is now seeking to do is deregulate, is to take all the rules that we fought so hard to establish and upset the balance, thereby causing upward pressures on rental incomes, increasing property values, disrupting the balance that we so carefully fought to create.
And from your point of view, Counselor, what are the changes, the proposed changes that would do the most damage?
Thank you, Errol, for having me on the show. I think there are a number of changes that would do significant damage. First is that the permanent residence does not have to be in the household during the time of the rental. There are language changes that allow for owners to lock doors and restrict access in ways that would create safety hazards. But mostly what we're concerned with is the loss of that housing stock. If a bill like this passes, it will create a pressure that will result in displacement. This is about 14% of the rental stock in the city and 30% of the housing stock in the city. So I think that if this bill passes, all of that housing stock will be up for grabs. And these are tenants who are in apartments that don't have rental protections. So they can be removed. A lot of them don't have leases, so they can easily be removed. And we're going to have a situation where neighborhoods are cleared out of people who are real New Yorkers, people who work throughout the city and who make the city what it is, and we're going to have hotels in different neighborhoods. So we're very concerned about that.
Taking a step back, the whole meaning of private property is, on some level, you get to do with it what you want. And I'm thinking of vacation havens like Martha's Vineyard, like Nantucket, like out in the Hamptons, where people rent out their homes, and they don't stay there. They rent out the whole home, and they go away for a month. They go back to the Caribbean or take some vacation or something like that, and they're able to earn from their property at the same time. This kind of takes away that ability, doesn't it?
Well, Errol, there is a housing shortage that's really significant. And the way this city has legislated and set policy for a very long time has been to preserve housing for New Yorkers that are here. This is not Palm Beach. This is New York City. We're in a housing shortage. So I think it's very important that we continue along those lines and continue to create opportunities for people to live and thrive in the city.
You are part of the National Action Network led by the Reverend Al Sharpton. He's actually come out in support of 948A, one of the two pieces of legislation we're discussing. He said it would deliver economic justice for Black and brown communities. Help me sort of put those together. Is this something where reasonable minds can just disagree?
I think it's important to focus on where we do agree. We do agree that homeowners need relief in this city. We do agree that there's an affordability crisis that is disproportionately affecting Black and brown homeowners. We do agree that home sharing, if properly done, can be a remedy and can provide some relief. Where our disagreement lies is not with National Action Network, Reverend Sharpton or Reverend Richardson or any of the others who have put themselves out there in pursuit of social justice. It's with Airbnb and their specific tactics with respect to this legislation. What this legislation does is it disrupts the very delicate balance that we all fought to establish. And it gives those homeowners who are home sharing now an advantage over potential future homeowners. It increases property values at an exponential rate, which then spills over into rental costs. And so what we're talking about is displacing, as has been said, is about displacing New Yorkers who rent in favor of people who are tourists in our city, asking renters in New York City to compete with tourists for beds and baths. And that's where the disagreement is.
Okay.
We all agree that their home ownership should allow for the privileges that come with it all across the country. You should be able to do with your home, within reason, what you will with it, but not at the cost of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of renters and families.
You wrote in an op-ed in the New York Daily News saying that, among other things, the proposed bills would change the definition of family in the law. What did you mean by that?
Well, it would change the definition of family to include, well, we would have an increase in the number of people that can occupy a unit. And then with the ability to restrict access to who is in the unit, that would create a situation where a common household includes a number of people and people who don't have to live in the unit exclusively. So there's another change to the language which says that a two-family dwelling or a one-family dwelling is one where the permanent occupant lives there primarily and not exclusively. We don't know what primarily means. We do have an idea what it means because after local law passed, there was litigation by the short-term rental platforms where they wanted to challenge and say that they should be able to, the primary resident should be able to leave the apartment at least 182 days a year. So with that, the court pointed to the language that said that is exclusively for residence purposes, and their arguments were discredited. So now they have returned and they're seeking a tweak in the language that allowed them to do what they want to do, which is like create a situation where no one has to be in the residence for...
They can leave for you know, half the year and so forth.
And that creates an administrative nightmare for the city. The city has been aggressively enforcing against home sharers. Imagine if you remove the regulation that you have to be present. How then is the city to enforce any of its codes, security, safety codes, housing codes, building codes, if you don't have to be present at any given time?
I looked at the number of sponsors, and, you know, you can never predict these things, but there were like 9 co-sponsors on one, I think 7 on the other. How realistic is it that this would even pass? Is it going to definitely get a vote before the end of the year, do you think?
Well, we're hoping it doesn't get a vote before the end of the year, but there are some powerful arguments and powerful forces on both sides of this argument. So, let's have a robust debate, but let's have it next year.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you for bringing us your side of the debate. We have aired this issue a couple of times now. Thanks so much for coming by, and that is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks for watching, and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
That's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. We've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything.
Hey, brother, be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No.
Series.
There was another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top story.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere. At home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for. Streaming apps included at no extra cost.
Who's got that, pal? Get a good look.
With live TV and on demand. All together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage.